Shim Cheong, a filial daughter's devotion. Long ago in the Joseon dynasty, there lived a poor blind man named Shim Cheong. He belonged to a fallen noble family in Gwangju, but his life was filled with hardship. Still, with his wife, Lady Guak, he lived a quiet and caring life. For more than 20 years they had no children, so they prayed at temples with all their hearts. At last, when Shim Cheong was over 40 years old, a daughter was born to them. They named her Shim Cheong, but their joy was short-lived. Only 7 days after giving birth, Lady Guak suddenly passed away. The blind father, heartbroken but determined, begged the women of the village to feed his infant daughter with their milk. The villagers, moved with pity and respect, took turns nursing the little girl. And so, Shim Cheong grew up loved not only by her father, but also by her neighbours. As she grew, she cared for her father with deep devotion. She begged for rice in the village, worked for wages, and did everything she could to support him. Everyone admired her for her kindness, her skill, and above all, her filial piety. When Shim Cheong turned 15, the wife of a high minister heard of her good name. She invited the girl, and even hinted at adopting her as a foster daughter. But Shim Cheong politely declined. She could not leave her blind father alone. That very evening, as her father went searching for her, he fell into a stream. A monk from the nearby temple, Mongansar, happened to be passing by and saved him. Learning of his blindness, the monk told him,
"If you make an offering of 5,400 kiloliters of rice to the Buddha, your eyes will be opened."
Blinded by hope, Shim Cheong promised he would do so. But when he came home, reality struck. How could a poor beggar ever offer such wealth? He confessed his despair to his daughter. Shim Cheong answered softly, "Do not worry, father. I will find a way." Soon after, she heard that sailors bound for the South Sea were seeking a maiden sacrifice to calm the waves. In return, they would pay 5,400 kiloliters of rice. To save her father's sight, Shim Cheong made her decision. She secretly sold herself as the sacrifice. To her father, she only said that a noble lady had donated rice to the temple for his sake. Before leaving, she sewed him clothes, prepared food, and made sure he would not suffer when she was gone. But the night before boarding the ship, she told him the truth. Her father cried out,
"I would rather remain blind forever than lose you. Cancel this at once."
But Shim Cheong knelt and wept. A promise must be kept. "Please, father, remarry, have more children, and live in peace." The next morning, villagers wept as they accompanied her to the shore. Even the sailors, moved by her devotion, gave her father extra grain and money to survive. When the ship reached the raging sea called Indangsu, Shim Cheong dressed in white, prayed, and leapt into the waves. The stormy sea instantly calmed, and the ship sailed on safely. The sailors mourned her sacrifice and prayed for her soul. But heaven had not abandoned her. The Jade Emperor saw her devotion and ordered the dragon King of the Sea to rescue her. In his palace beneath the waves, Shim Cheong was treated like a princess. For 3 years she lived in splendor and even reunited with the spirit of her late mother. At last, the Jade Emperor sent her back to the human world. She rose from the sea inside a giant lotus blossom. When fishermen discovered the flower, they thought it a divine sign and presented it to the king. As the lotus opened, the most beautiful woman they had ever seen appeared. Shim Cheong. The king, believing she was a gift from heaven, took her as his queen. Meanwhile, her father, Shim Cheong, had remarried a greedy woman called Lady Bengdok. She squandered all the wealth left by the sailors, and soon they became beggars. Ashamed and destitute, Shim Cheong wandered from place to place. In the palace, though she lived as queen, Shim Cheong never forgot her father. One day she confessed to the king her past, how she had sold herself to save her father's eyes, how she had leapt into the sea, and how heaven had spared her. The king, deeply moved, ordered a great feast for all the blind people in the land, hoping that Shim Cheong's father might appear. For days the feast went on, but her father did not come. Shim Cheong grew anxious. At last, near the end, a ragged old blind man entered. At first she could not recognize him, but when she asked his name, the answer struck her heart. He was her father. Shim Cheong rushed to him, crying, "Father, it's me, your daughter, Shim Cheong." In that moment, a miracle occurred. Shock and joy opened his eyes. He could see again. And not only him, all the blind people at the feast suddenly regained their sight. The crowd rejoiced, singing and dancing in wonder. The king rewarded the villagers who had once cared for Shim Cheong and honoured those who had helped her father. Lady Bengdok, who had betrayed her husband, was punished, while her companion was exiled. Shim Cheong was given the noble title of Prince Consort, and later remarried a kind blind woman he had met on his journey. Together with his daughter, he lived in peace. As a queen, Shim Cheong spread kindness and virtue throughout the land. The kingdom prospered, and her name was praised for generations as a symbol of love, sacrifice, and filial piety. It was the tale of Shim Cheong, a daughter whose devotion to her father moved heaven and earth, and whose sacrifice brought light not only to her father's eyes, but to the hearts of all who hear her story.